This is wild. An NBA insider predicting a trade for the San Antonio Spurs that have the likes of Jimmy Butler or Zion Williamson coming to San Antonio. Bill Simmons. We're going to break down what you said here and how this will work for the San Antonio Spurs if they got either one of these guys here on Spurs Digest with your host Keenan Warner. And if you guys haven't yet, just want to say, take a spur of the moment to get every Spurs moment moving forward by hitting that subscribe button. The channel has been taking off ever since we started this thing, and it's continuing to grow and rise, and we couldn't be more appreciative of that. But if you haven't yet, take a spur of the moment, get every Spurs moment by hitting that subscribe button. But Victor Wembanyama has pundits thinking the Spurs could pull off a blockbuster trade. Let's just real quick. We all know, we all know. 25, 11, 4, and 4, 47% from the floor, 35% from three. This is even with a bad start to the year. If you take out that first 10 games, he's around 28, 11, shooting closer to 50% and shooting closer to 37% from three-point line. He's a top 10 player in the game today, and as this goes on, is one of the 10 plus players in the lane. It's not up for debate anymore. He is officially top 10, and honestly, he's not 10. I mean, it's not Drake. I'm top 5, but I'm not 5, and I'm not 2. But like, he's getting up there. He's closing up to that top 5, This guy, I love having him on our roster. But when you have a talent like that, everyone's going to be anxious to see what you can do in the playoffs. And of course you're going to be, because you're so good. People want to see you in the highest leverage moments early. And the Spurs have the opportunity to be that this season. They have been playing very good basketball as the year has gone on. And they're going to continue to do such a thing. But, we're at the position now where the San Antonio Spurs might be in the 12 spot, but they are legitimately only 3.5 games out of being the 5 spot. So they're so close to being there that one move could put them over the top, or one move or even the way they're playing now can get them into the playoffs. And as Bill Simmons was talking about, if you haven't seen it, he was talking 30-1, talking about all the teams. He was talking about the San Antonio Spurs. He's like, no one wants to play this guy in round 1. No one wants to see Wemby round 1, and no one wants to see Wemby round 1. Why would you want to? He is a freak of nature. He is a guy who can go get 40. Can go get 50. Can get 10 blocks, 10 assists, 20 rebounds in a game. He's done all of it already this season. And so that's why you entertain these trade scenarios. And when it comes from someone like Bill Simmons, he doesn't typically just say things to say things. He's in the know. He's in the NBA circles. So when you hear rumblings of words, he wouldn't just say, oh, yeah, you should pair up Victor Wembanyama with Giannis Antetokounmpo, because it's not likely that's to happen. But when you mention guys like Jimmy Butler, when you mention guys like Zion Williamson, guys who could be moved, you think, okay, there's actually some credence behind what he is saying there. But race past expectations so far, same way LeBron did when LeBron walked into the league. You're like, oh, yep, that's top 20 player in the game today. First game against the Kings. You're like, yep, we know who that is. But on his podcast, he was discussing moves that he thinks they should make at the deadline, less than a month away, and it's going to be great. He was like, holy, could you imagine? Oh, I can't believe they just traded for Jimmy Butler, or they just traded for Zion. What team would be more scary if they traded for that guy? And Bill Simmons, obviously, he's been a guy who's been on different networks and everything, speaking basketball, but the one thing you do know, he has a historical mind, and he does know his sports, and he doesn't say things for no reason. So hearing that from Bill Simmons is like oh, okay. Let's entertain it. He's entertaining it. He believes that it could happen. He believes that the Spurs are some move that they should make, and the league would be scared if they did. Let's talk about both of them. Jimmy Butler's the first guy. And a guy who I've supported the Heat. Dwayne Wade's one of my favorite players. I like watching the Miami Heat. They're a great team. They're not San Antonio, but they're a great team. Jimmy Butler is a guy who in the playoffs can get to levels in which you don't see quite often, because you don't see many guys who can take themselves from a B to an A like that. Rajon Rondo is another guy who could do that, but right now with the age he's 35. The drama, obviously, you wouldn't have that for long, but at the same time, he's still at the point in his career right now where he's not the same guy. Could he push you over the top? Absolutely. But I do think that you want to make a move if you're the San Antonio Spurs that is going to last for a while, because Wemby just turned 21. You don't want to have these, veteran, maybe a 2-year, 3-year move. The Butler's great for the Lakers, great for the Warriors. They have a 2 to 3 year window. You want him on a team that has the same window. So Butler, to me, I don't love the trade. I think that you could get, if you got him in the offseason for a couple of years, sure. If you got him on a cheap trade, which I don't think would happen, then sure. But if you're going to actually have to give up legitimate assets for him, I don't love it, because you don't have this, you're not in a situation to where he's on your timeline. That guy, though, is on your timeline. That guy, as much as he can be annoying with his in and out, and we're going to break that down here in just a moment, that guy is on your timeline. That guy can still produce at a high level. That's 22, 8, and 5, and he has been in and out, so that's not even really a real depiction of what he can do on a night in, night out basis. 48%. We know he had a whole season when he was above 60%, and then 20% from three. He has been getting better as a 3-point shooter. That's just this season, of course, in 9 games. He hasn't played much, and that is the issue with him, is he hasn't played much. 9 games from Zion, and you're like, wait, how much do I want to really give up for a guy who is injury prone, for a guy who I don't know if he's going to be there in the highest leverage spots? We've already had a guy like that in recent memory, and that went terrible. But I don't think you would have to give up the world for him. You would be giving up future assets, but you wouldn't have to give up or gut the team you have now, which the team you have now needs a piece or two, and then you've got it. And that would be the piece. A high-low with Zion and Wemby, especially a guy in Wemby who can pass, a guy in Zion who can pass. Both of them can bring up the ball, bring up the floor. You got the high pick and roll. Could you imagine a pick and roll with Zion and Wemby? You've got Castle, who's been ascending. The Lakers game, and then after that, you had the Grizzlies game. He has been ascending and playing much better. He's continuing to grow as a player, and that is a guy who can truly be the 3rd best player on a championship team someday with the way his talent is. Maybe 2nd. We don't know how he's going to be, but easily could envision him being like the 3rd best player on a championship level team. Can he get to Chris Middleton level play? Can he get to Drew Holiday level play in his career? I absolutely think that's within the high realm of possibility. I say Middleton not for play style, but for tenure and spot within the roster and what you're expected to do on a night in, night out basis. But the thing with Zion, this is his 24 games. He's been out with a hip, he's been out with a hamstring, a foot, conditioning, this and that, personal reasons, which we don't need to get into, that we know, if you know, you know, kind of things. But when he is right and when he is playing, he is such an electric player who is so he's eager to get to the basket. He's efficient. He can score. Like this, he can do a little bit of everything, and that's what the allure of him is. You have a high-low there. You've got Castle on the outside. You've obviously, Chris Paul wouldn't be in the future, but you'd have him in the short term, say even next year. Chris Paul, I think, would come back next year if he thought, yeah, we got a real shot at a championship, and that would be the indicator, too. If Chris Paul came back next year, you're like, okay, he actually thinks we have a shot at a championship, not just molding these guys. You've got Devin Vassell here, and I truly think that for Wemby to get Zion, like the package would be something along the lines of Keldon Johnson, Charles Bassey, multiple first-round picks, Tre Jones. So you'd have to get rid of your backup big. You'd have to get rid of a guy like Keldon Johnson. I think you'd be able to keep Champagnie, who you'd want to keep. They might have to give up Barnes. If you were to do it this year, you'd have to give up someone like Barnes for capital. But there is easily a way to do this, because, I mean, the contractually, 37 mil, I'll go up to 44 mil, and money really is not the issue for the Spurs at this moment. You don't want to throw it around all randomly to get to a position to where in the future you are cap strapped, but we have so much cap space right now that making these moves, especially if it's like people on 2 to 3 year deals before they have to get new deals, when Wemby is still in his rookie contract, because we have to remember, he he's barely played over 100 games. He's played, I think, 110-ish games. He's played 1.25 or 1.5 seasons in the league, and we're already talking about him like this. He's still got 2.5 years on his rookie deal before the extension will really kick in, and obviously the second he's eligible for the max extension, the contract already should be ready with just in pencil, because the number's just going to continue to go up. But then once it's put in pen, just slide it over to him, say, hey buddy, please sign this. Thank you, we'll take it. You have a great day. But yeah, I just think that with Zion in this situation on this team, we could put ourselves in an advantageous position to go win early and often. And I understand that there are so many different ways to talk about the Spurs team, and there's so many different avenues that you can go down. But Bill Simmons bringing that up was like, oh, this has more credence to it than just a random report for some random person. I think that this has like legitimacy to it, to where it's actually something that the Spurs organization should think about. And I know they are thinking about them. They're a progressive organization who, even though they're not going to only go make splash plays, they are an organization that is willing to think, is willing to expand their thoughts because of the fact that they are a very smart organization. So they're going to think of everything they can. They don't want to rush anything, because rushing into something is not always the best way to go about it. But this guy is good enough to be the best player on a championship level team today. Right now. He could go on a run today. Let's utilize it and get as many years as possible with him. Because if you don't want to maximize that, you want to wait for this and wait for that, then you get to a situation like Boston. It ended up working out for Boston. They won a championship. But Boston was just waiting and waiting and waiting. And then they were like, you know what, let's go get Drew Holiday. Yep, let's go get Kristaps Porzingis. Like, we're going for it. And they won. But they were just continuing to kind of just allow this team, like, we drafted this team, we're going to let them go. And they get to the conference championship. They lose to the Warriors in the finals. They get to they just continuously got to the same position. And then you get to a spot where you feel rushed into this. There's no need to feel rushed into like the pressure. We have to win a championship or else everything's got to change. And I know that's not this organization, but like, media pressure is a real thing. Take advantage of every year you have this alien. Every single year. We don't want to waste a single dribble of his career to think of, well, it was just a throwaway year. We don't have throwaway years anymore. With him, there's not a such thing as a throwaway year. We're throwing years away if we're not utilizing them, but we don't have throwaway years, obviously injury dependent. But I love this. I love the idea of the Spurs being in that global spotlight and them being within trade talks, a destination that people want to go to, players want to go to, and that organizations are wanting to do deals with, because we have a lot of assets pick-wise and player-wise, and it all circles around us getting that alien from France named Victor Wembanyama. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think that we should try to make a push for Zion Williamson? I know a lot of people don't love the big trades, but I do think that a splash trade for the San Antonio Spurs would be great to maximize the years of Victor Wembanyama. But let me know what you guys think in the comments there about Bill Simmons' comments. If you haven't gone and checked out what he had to say about the Spurs in total, I would go check that out, because he actually did have a lot of glowing things to say about the Spurs in total, not just about this trade or this move. But this has been Spurs Digest with your host, Keenan Warner. I appreciate all of you guys, and I'll be seeing all of you guys very soon.